All right. So in this particular video, of course, we're going to be going over Revelations chapter 17, where it deals with this particular woman, obviously, who has this cup that's filled with all kinds of abominations. All right. Keep watching. All right. Well, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. What I go over in the content is esoteric and exoteric research in retrospect to how it influences you and how by being on a more pious lifestyle, how that can help you in your soul journey on obtaining the mysteries of the light in a better way for you and the pieces of their consciousness that might have fallen, okay? So I have gone ahead also and set up the, let's see here, where is it? Oh, okay. So I have gone ahead and set up the Patreon for you. So if you're interested in obtaining more exclusive content that I don't necessarily share here on YouTube, then you can definitely go over there and support me there, and I'll leave the link underneath the like button in the description area. So let's go ahead and get to Revelation 17 here. So what it says, let's see if I can get the arrow. So we're going to be focusing on line 4 here for you. Okay, so it says, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So if you've been seeing some of the previous videos, you'll notice how I've been relating a lot of this text to stuff that is taking place from within you. From a cell perspective, neuron perspective, you know, red blood cells, you keep going, you will notice that I've been bringing it on the inside of you. And I'm going to continue that in this particular video. So here, what I want to explain is how the reason why this woman is decked in purple and the reason why she's also decked in red is because this illustration here that I've shown you before, this one here, if you look at number 7, notice how that's purple. And then if we go down here to number 1 down here, we'll see how that's red, right? So you're dealing with 1 through 7. Obviously, this particular matrix example goes all the way up, higher than that. And then we were explaining also in using Genesis chapter 3, that when Adam listened to some information, of course, how that got him cast out of these higher particular experiences and got him placed down here in the lower experiences. And we explained that when we were dealing with Genesis chapter 3 here. So let's see if we can get that here, of course. So in line 11 here, it says what? Who told thee thou was naked? So that was the consuming of the information, was who have you been listening to? And remember, it was saying that out of all the trees thou mayest freely eat from, but of this particular tree that's dealing with the knowledge of good and evil, we're talking about something that's dealing with like polarization there. Don't eat from that one, because the day that thou eatest from that particular tree, thou shalt surely die. So it looks like they were in the good, and then they listened to something that appeared to be wise and good for food, but it was actually part of the evil that's dealing with the lower self. And then that's when they saw that they were naked, and then they became like that kind of stuff in thinking, in thought. Okay, so see down here in the personality matrix how you're dealing with, and number 2 here says you're dealing with what? Sexual and desires and you know, physical body intelligence and stuff like that. So that's the reason why it was saying what it was saying there. So what we're talking about is a particular matrix that the people have been trapped in, that that is from purple all the way to red. And most people are having their experiences down there in the personality matrix, and they haven't even had the opportunity to possibly experience any of the ones above that, because you have particular groups that have been set up to keep you in the tail. Okay, remember in the book of Deuteronomy how it talks about, excuse me, it talks about these particular curses and so forth, and how it shows that you would be someone else would be the head. Notice how he's doing that little gesture there with his hat, and then you would be the tail. So they have particular teams that are set up to keep the foot on the tail, and the goal with that obviously is to, let me get this arrow here, and you'll see how you'll have these particular 3 steps here. Notice how you have the one with the shovel and stuff, because he's mining for information. Remember the personality matrix and all that stuff that's dealing with subconscious memories and all that kind of stuff. So then you have these 3 steps here, because that's what it's referring to in terms of this lower area down here that most people are trapped in. And that's the reason why you have these guys right next to them in these chains here. Do you see that? So the coming out of her, my people, is really dealing with lower birth. So lower birth contributes to malfunctions and breakdowns within you, and then you don't have that knowledge of your knowing who you are. So then who you are actually ends up becoming your enemy, because they're actually casting you into lower regions of your own self, and then they're ruling over you. Remember, it says that the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee where? Very high, and thou shalt come down what? Very low. So the stranger that it's referring to, let me put something up on the screen here. So I have this illustration here. Obviously, I'll upload this on Patreon for you, but this goes all the way to 12. And obviously, there's other races and things that have taken place. But what you're dealing with are those from other areas who have come in, and they have decided that they wanted to try to use the people in order to carry out the things that they want done for themselves. And most of them can't even survive without using the energies of the people. You get what I'm saying? Especially when you start getting up into like astral type stuff and all that, they're really needing the energies of the peoples that are ignorant, because they're living dead, because they're inside of this woman and they haven't came out yet. And then they've been rewarding their teams and so forth because they're helping them feed, and then they've been getting rewarded by possibly just having a better situation in the lower areas of existence, if you get what I'm saying. So what you have to become, obviously, is you have to become a destroyer of rebirth, because it looks like this woman is dealing with this particular placenta that looks like a tree, and it's red and purple, okay, and it is attached to this particular uterus, obviously, that is filled with all kinds of bad information. Do you get what I'm saying? That's what you keep entering into, and then you keep producing lower births through lower thought forms, okay, by these particular lower thought forms. This is from the Keys of Enoch. The second paragraph is what we want to focus on. So it says, the Enoch keys were given directly to me through the revelation of the Holy Scroll of burning light, seeing Merkabah, in the threshold space of the higher spiritual light. It says, they were given to me beyond the confinement of the earth and the air region surrounding the earth, so that they would not be what? Contaminated by the falling thought forms of higher intelligence. So you're dealing with higher intelligence here that influence the what? Destructive pathways of humanity. Remember, it says wide is the way that leads to destruction, right? But it's a very narrow path that leads to light, or something along those lines. And what I want to show you in this particular video is that very narrow path that not many people are actually on, is you keeping your pants up. You get what I'm saying? And instead of you being of a lower birth, you get what I'm saying? You can be of a higher birth, right? Remember right here it says, O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me. Remember, we're dealing with, just higher intelligence, higher thought forms, higher ways of doing stuff. It says, even though they be of lower birth, through women, and then it says merchants as well as workers, right? So now that I'm bringing this merchants and workers out, let me go ahead and play this particular audio here for you. So check this out.
He who has ears, let him hear. A man had some guests. And when he had prepared the dinner, he sent his servant to invite the guests. He went to the first one. He said to him,
"My master invites you."
I have some business with some merchants. They are coming to me this evening. I must go and put in my orders. I would like to be excused from the dinner.
He went to another and said to him,
"My master invites you."
I have purchased a house and I am obligated for the day. I shall not have time to come.
He went to another and said to him,
"My master invites you."
My friend is going to be married and I am to prepare the dinner. I shall not be able to come. I would like to be excused from the dinner.
He went to another and said to him,
"My master invites you."
I have purchased a farm, and I am about to go to collect the rent payment. I am not be able to come. I would like to be excused.
The servant returned and said to his master,
Those whom you invited to the dinner have asked to be excused.
Go to the outer lying parts, to the streets, and bring in anyone you happen to find, so that they may dine.
Buyers and merchants will not enter the places of my Father.
Okay, so that particular audio is from the Gospel according to Thomas, how it talks about, hey, come and dine with me. Don't drink of the cup that's filled with all of the abominations and so forth. Come and eat of that I have to offer, which is of that higher way of doing things, so you can actually be what? Born of God here. In 1 John, it says, whosoever is born of God doth not commit sin. For what? For his seed remaineth in him. So through this restoration process of you shaking off the ignorance of these particular lower world experiences where you're caught up in the personality matrix and, how much stuff can you buy and how many people can you sell to and how many people, let me pleasure this, let me pleasure that, and blah, blah, blah. Once you are saying, you want to know what? I don't want to be of that lower birth anymore. I want to eat from the good table. So then you will start eating of that good information, and then you are retaining your seed within you, because you have to clean out all of the bad messages that you've been putting in there while you were in ignorance, while you were caught up in the web, so to speak. And what's interesting about that is, like, for example, when I looked up purple and scarlet, it showed like a spider, right? When all you got to do is just type in purple and scarlet and go to images, and that's the first thing that you see there. And what's interesting that it's using this spider as this illustration, of course, is there's a text called Hidden Meanings. I'll leave a link to it underneath the like button in the description area. But in there, it talks about these particular mythologies and so forth that the Dogon are familiar with, and how it talks about certain stuff being weaved as so on a shuttle. So if you do like even a simple search term, you can come across something like this where it talks about weaving, and it says weaving, sewing, and spinning show up throughout ancient mythologies in many cultures, including ones as distant from one another as ancient Egyptians and the Dogon in Mali. Myths speak of weavers as the ones who have the ability or responsibility of bringing form out of formlessness. For the Egyptians, it is Neith, goddess and prime creator, who creates matter with her shuttle and so forth. And the Dogon give credit to the spider Dada for the weaving of the world. So then when you are creating an image, like for example, this is an image that someone decided to create. So when they created this particular image, then they set up particular industries and various different types of contaminating associations and organization groups and teams to help illustrate this particular idea in the consciousness of the people. So then what you end up having is a weaving process. And if you haven't actually seen the video, What is Consciousness, I recommend that you go and watch that video. Like I said, I'll link that resource for you as well. And what you'll understand in this particular video is how I was going over how sight and sound equals your words. Remember, it said, who told you you was naked, right? So that means you were listening to something. The first thing is what you saw and what you were listening to, and that produces the words that you were saying, and then that's some form of consciousness, right? Whether it be at the lower end of it or at the higher end of it. And then what that does, obviously, is those words are placed, times the observation in what you are participating in creates these pixels that are actually placed, on a board for you that actually produces this dreamlike experience that you're having, and you're just basically the living dead. And don't forget about this illustration here, where it talks about how this is from Cosmic Memory, and how it's talking about, because we're dealing with how someone came from a higher birth situation all the way down to a lower birth situation. So in the Cosmic Memory here, it talks about, I'm going to start where it says, thus physical man has developed from double sexiness. Remember in the book of Genesis, it says male and female created he them, right? So it says developed from double sexiness to single sexiness because of this separation into male and female when they were cast down. You get what I'm saying? So there was a separation that took place. In this way, man has become a spiritual being of the kind which he is now, but one must not suppose that no beings which possess cognition had been in contact, blah, 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 skip down. It says his soul expressed itself only in what? Instincts, in appetites, in animal desires, and so on. His consciousness was what? Was dreamlike. So from this observation, participation things, because remember that you have so many systems and stuff that are set up where you have what? One language. You're all speaking one language, right? Because y'all are participating in an idea, and that's the same as a language. Remember the Tower of Babel situation? So you all had one language, so that is the same thing as this weaving process, okay? So you're in a net. You're actually in a net that is pieces connected with other pieces, and that's the neuron example that I was trying to explain to you, how you have the receiving of information that goes in through the dendrites, and then you have the sending of information that comes out through these terminals into the rest of your body, and so forth and so on. And how you, when you're connected up to everybody, once you realize how you are actually providing the experience. You're actually providing the experience. And that is actually really, really interesting when you think about it like that. Okay? So this is what I'm basically saying is taking place in Revelation chapter 17, where it talks about this this woman who has this cup that's filled with all kinds of abominations and everything like that because of the passing of wrong information. And this here is from the origin of the world. Okay, we're going to focus on this middle section here. Let's see if I can get the arrow here for you. It says, the woman followeth the earth. Don't forget who brought the information to so-called Adam. And I'm not necessarily saying that all women are bad. We're just trying to understand this from a thought form perspective, okay? So, so if we think about a particular thought, so it says, the woman followeth the earth, and marriage followeth the woman. It says reproduction followeth marriage, and death followeth reproduction. And that's what I'm explaining when I talk about this lower birth situation, because if we have women that have been fashioned by the demiurges, remember the demiurges here. Let me see if I can get that illustration out here for you. So if we have women that are fashioned by the demiurges who are being sent to the man, then obviously that's who we're talking about, right? So check this out. It says, furthermore, talking about these particular demiurges, implanted in Adam the lust of begetting. So that was that word that was spoken that he heard. Remember, he heard something. It says, so then that lust of begetting was put there, and then which started the chain of procreation. That placenta thing that looks like a tree, that's connected to that cup, which is the uterus, that's filled with all of these particular things that were implanted. Where? Into the cell. Implanted into the cell. Do you get what I'm saying? So this is what we need to understand is we need to take this from the outside and take it on to the inside here. Now it does say that the mother through this process did try to, she sent her spirit in there. She's like, let me send this in there real quick to help awaken them. Do you get what I'm saying? From their impotence of knowledge, right? Because they are not born of God, they're born of lower birth. And you get what I'm saying? Through this placenta process. And remember, Yeah, so maybe I'll share that. Actually, let me just go ahead and see if I can put this up on the screen real quick, because I didn't know this, but the woman, actually, her body treats, okay, well, I'll link it in the description area, but here it says the archons counter what the mother is doing, the great mother, is doing, by their equally continuous one of their counterfeit mind, their counterfeit thoughts, their counterfeit spirit that springs from them. It enters into the soul, bad information entering into the cell. Okay, it enters into the cell and it weighs you down and it prevents you from knowing how to lift up the seed from within you, Adam. You get what I'm saying? That's what it's causing you to do. So then you are sending much seed out into the field. Remember the curse here in Deuteronomy chapter 28 here, where it says, thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and gather but little in. Do you get what I'm saying? For the locust, which is what? Sexual desire shall consume it. Okay? And that's what's been happening, is the people have been carrying their seed out into the field, into the world, into women who have been contaminated by thought forms that are not of God, so to speak. Because if someone is, then that means that your seed is remaining within you, and maybe there's a different type of something that you are doing that's very different. Like, for example, if you read in the Lost Book of Enki, how it talks about when they were trying to create these particular workers and so forth, and when they were doing their mixtures, they were using crystals and vessels, and they weren't actually entering into anything. Their thought process was, okay, let me extract the essence and then let me put it inside of something and then let me implant that into the woman. That was their thought process. And then when you actually continue to read that text, you'll see that they actually started doing what they created was doing. And then they started entering into women's and so forth. You see what I'm saying? So it's very possible that that's the process that you had happen, and then word got out of all the various different creatures and creators and things that had been done, and then they was thinking about ways that they could actually do stuff and how they can have their own people and carry out their own missions and so forth and so on, and how they can take over maybe the matrix themselves. You get what I'm saying? And trap people in lower worlds and using them as feeding sources. You know what I'm saying? Like a cow doesn't know it's a feeding source, right? So that's possibly what's taking place, of course, in this situation. So what you want to do through this process of keeping your pants up and being encouraged to do so by those that are around you, this is a textual illustration of the graphical illustration that I was showing you earlier, of those different worlds. And look down here at the bottom how it says bodies, matter. Then you go up to what? Human, animal souls. Okay? See here? All right, so see down here, in one, you're trapped in matter because you're all about physical body intelligence and subconscious memories and automatic processes, right? But then two up here, you're dealing with what? Sexual addictions and desires and so forth and so on. So that kind of has you kind of like the animal. So most people are trapped there in that lower area down there. But as you are going up through this process of restoration and so forth and getting back to the higher regions that you have been cast out of, this is how you are purging out the incorrect information that has been placed in your cell, and then you're getting into the right position of these particular areas that are within you, and then you have to go through this proving process because of all the stuff that you've let down by being a bad manager of your own body. Because Jacob in esoteric studies basically just means body. So when it says, "O God of Jacob," you are the God of your body. That's basically what it's saying. But then because of ignorance, you have been cast out probably through the red blood cells, carrying you into lower areas of yourself. And there, the stranger, what? Has been getting up above you very high, while thou has come down, what? Very low. You see what I'm saying? Because you have other infections that have infected the body, and those same infections have arms, leg, arms, and head and all that kind of stuff out here walking around. But because of the organized groups and contaminating associations, you haven't been able to associate it properly. But when you have an illness in the body, you can quickly understand that. You will quickly go and say, okay, what research do I need to do? What antidote do I need? What what do I need to take in order to try to purge out this particular infection, right? So what I'm trying to show you is that you have stuff that is in you that is a stranger to your body. It's an infection, but then you also have those that are walking around that are also the same thing that's within you. But you don't know how to look at it right because you think everybody is a people and everybody is the same and let's just all get along and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the situation. So once you realize that this is a process that is taking place from within, and your within is a direct reflection of what's happening on the outside of you, then all of this stuff will make sense. And then we'll stop trying to look at the ancient text and historicalize it, and we can look at it as science of what's taking place from within us. And that's the reason why everybody is doing stuff and it seems like they have not been able to get the victory. You get what I'm saying? So everybody's, obviously you have certain groups and certain things that have come together, and you change the names. You say, okay, well, we're no longer going to use this name, we're going to use that name, but you keep the same structure of the previous stuff that you was in. And then you're doing it, and year 1 goes by, year 2 goes by, year 3 goes by, year 4 goes by. And then now you're possibly losing members of that organization because they're not seeing anything. And now you have to keep proliferating the same ignorance that you was proliferating when you first got them, just to get new people on board, because you're now worried about the numbers. So if you start actually going into the pages and start seeing what it's actually saying in there, then this is how we can actually change the situation. And this is how you had those Israelites going out into certain areas and basically just decimating areas, meaning the people that were there, and not even losing a man, because they were looked at as T cells. They were looked at as a positive electrons and so forth and so on, where once you realize this thing and you start connecting it up to like what's taking place within you, then it makes sense. If you have bacteria in the kitchen, what do? You go and clean it up. You don't say, oh, let me not kill that bacteria, sure, it might be not good to have them around, No, you go straight in there and start attacking it. Do you get what I'm trying to explain? So this is what the organized groups have done, is they've basically got you in a docile state, and you've been placing pieces of your consciousness on boards to fulfill their images, if you get what I'm saying. And that image does not support you. Look at this photo here that's hanging up on somebody's wall and tell me if this supports you or not. You get what I'm saying? So that's pretty much what we have going on here. And you need to drink from the cup of remembrance, because most people have been drinking from the cup of forgetfulness. This is the cup of forgetfulness right here. But then when you're drinking from the cup of remembrance, now this is from the Book of Truth. This is the sacred cup of remembrance here. This is from the Book of Truth, the voice of Osiris here. And there's a reason why it's called that, and there's a reason why it's shaped the way that it's shaped. If you look at how it's shaped a certain way for a reason. And then when you get this next cup here, this is talking about the initiation, and look how there's now a separation in the middle and how high it's gotten. You get what I'm trying to explain? So you have to lift up something from within you. This is the lamp of initiation. Know how in the book of Matthew how it talks about not allowing the oil to run out. What do you think it's talking about? Because Christ means oil. Let me see if I can put that up on the screen here. I have that illustration somewhere. Yeah, I don't see it right now. But yeah, so if you look up what Christ actually means in Greek, it actually means oil. So you've been carrying that oil out into the field, and you have not been sending that oil up. That is actually what it means to tithe. Okay, obviously you have to understand how the urinary tract is set up and everything in order to release things out of the body and so forth. But your goal is to not enjoy any of that stuff. Do you get what I'm saying? You don't want to get caught up into the animal stuff. You don't want to do that. So so that there's an illustration here. So if you look it up here, I thought I had that somewhere here. But yeah, so if you look up what the word Christ actually means, it actually means oil. So I'm going to find that really quickly here, because I want to be able to provide the resource for you. So I put it in the previous video. I don't know where it went. All right, so that's pretty much the concept there, is that Christ actually means oil. So when it talks about, you know, these particular ones who are running around trying to get oil and stuff, you got to understand who it's really talking about. And it's talking about these ones who have that Lot style way of, the daughters of Lot style way of doing stuff, where they're coming around and they're trying to promote certain types of behaviors so they can try to obtain something from you, because they're trying to continue their existence. You get what I'm saying? And don't forget about this one here when it says the serpent, how it tracked Gilgamesh's movements here. This is from the Epic of Gilgamesh. You know what I'm saying? And how it tried to snatch the flower, right? Thus taking immortality from mankind. You get what I'm saying? So don't forget that we have these types of resources that have been left for us, but when you are part of a group, then it makes it very difficult for you to seek out this information properly, because you have to deal with the agenda of the group. And then when you want to try to present some information, then they're looking at you a certain kind of way, because you don't, they might think that you're trying to seek their level. Do you get what I'm saying? Or you're trying to go out and form your own group. That's why it says, blessed are the solitaries and the elect. You get what I'm saying? That's what we're really talking about here. We're not talking about following nobody. What we're saying here is that, you know, by being here in these particular areas, wherever someone's area might be, then you are on a pathway of getting back to that which you left. And someone's experience might be different than someone else's experience, depending on how their fall might have taken place. Because everybody's fall didn't happen the same way. Do you get what I'm saying? So you want to be a destroyer of rebirth into these lower worlds. You want to get your pieces out. If you've stored a piece in this idea or in that idea, you want to try to regain those pieces by disassociating yourself with those ideas. You get what I'm saying? And treating it like an infection, and you're trying to clean it out of the messenger RNA, and you're trying to encode new information in there, and then that stuff that they call junk DNA possibly can come out online for you. You get what I'm saying? And you can stop being the living dead. There's a reason why it's called the Egyptian Book of the Dead. There's a reason. You know what I'm saying? Or in the coming forth by day. You know? So that's really what we're talking about in this particular video, is not being of a lower thought form and not contributing to the demiurges who are trying to just keep people in ignorance, because they're using people as a feeding source, because this is the best it gets for them. You know what I'm saying? They possibly can't go anywhere else. So they're in, you know, so you got to understand what this consciousness death thing actually truly means when it talks about how you have these many different bodies and how certain cells are just having experiences, whether they're dead or not. And you want to get out of that dream state. You know what I'm saying? Where your consciousness is just dream-like, you know? So that's what we're talking about here. Let's see here, in the book of Revelations, chapter 17, where it talks about this particular woman. I'm relating that to the placenta in this particular video, and how what the placenta is connected up to is the cup that's the actual uterus, and what she's actually sitting on is possibly the organs, and so forth and so on. The 7 organs. We just need to really just try to understand this stuff from an inner perspective. That's really what we're getting at. And so we can be of a higher birth and get out of this lower birth situation. Get out of these lower worlds and be born of God, so to speak, because your seed is remaining within you. And that's how you come out of her, my people, so you do not become partakers of her plague, so you are coming out of her web. Does that make sense? So as you store your consciousness pieces high, see this electrostatic stuff going on down here? So if we look at that like a web in this example, obviously they're calling it something else, but let's just, for this example, let's just say you're getting out of those areas and you're placing your pieces as high as you can possibly get them. So that means that you're getting out of these lower experiences where all the plagues are. Do you get what I'm trying to explain? because there's a web down here. So you need to store you need to seek knowledge. It says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right? So then it says, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. You see what I'm saying? And I will also forget thy children, meaning those ones that you are bringing forth into the lower worlds, because they also are receiving information into their cells that they've gotten from you. Do you see how this works? So then as you are regaining your pieces, you are also restoring them as well, because you're connected to them. Do you see how you can continually be falling lower and lower and lower because you're continually sending your pieces lower and lower and lower, but as you continually send them higher, 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 I'm not saying it's just going to be like it's just going to be super easy. Obviously, you have those lower thought forms that you're going to have to deal with, and some people might confuse that, because it could be sometimes thought forms that you've created, or it could be these particular ones of higher intelligences that have come in and invaded certain phantom matrices and have been using the people as a feeding source. So you got to just understand how this whole process works. So that's what Revelation chapter 17 is saying. And if this video was helpful, leave a comment. If you have any questions about what I said in this video, also leave a comment, and then underneath the like button in the comment area, and I'll see you in the next video.